Good afternoon, and welcome to the panel ASEAN Even Stronger Together. This is also a panel about silver linings and constructive optimism, because, in the complicated world that we are living, there is not a huge surplus of optimism, but you can visit ASEAN and you feel a little bit more in a mood of growth and also investments and optimism. ASEAN, as we all know, and many of you know much better than me, it's 700 million people, is one of the fastest growing regions of the world. And one of the reasons it's so fast growing is that it already has pivoted towards this intelligent age. Because what we're seeing, trade is changing. Goods are still important, but what is growing 3 times faster than trade in goods, it's digital trade, it is also services, and ASEAN has already started to pivot. The fastest growing of the ASEAN economies is still Vietnam, but there is fierce competition for that first being number 1. So we at the World Economic Forum also have strong collaboration with all these countries, and we are also there related to Gen AI, but also the fourth industrial revolution, where we have centers both in Malaysia and also in Vietnam. So we have boots on the ground, but good boots, the right kind of boots, engineers, those that are building prosperity. We're very pleased to have Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim with us again here in Davos. It's a few years since you were here, but
30 years.
How many?
30.
Wow, it was about time. But a lot has happened during those years too, though. So, Prime Minister, this year you also happen to have the chairmanship of ASEAN. I know that Malaysia is also navigating the whole region. ASEAN is navigating in the big politics also between the G2. So for those that are not sure who the G2 is, you can ask ChatGPT, and they will probably tell you US and China. You never know. Prime Minister Ibrahim, can you share with us your vision for your chairmanship of ASEAN? And as we said, can ASEAN even work closer together and achieve more that way? Also, your single market has huge potential. Prime Minister. And let's give the Prime Minister a warm applause for coming back after 13 years.
Thank you. May I reiterate this point to suggest that we are fortunate to be in the region, relatively most peaceful and fastest growing economy, very pragmatic policies. But we are able to do that primarily because the relations and the trust among leaders is exemplary. I'm not exaggerating, but I don't find that sort of level of trust and friendship among countries, engaging on all issues, even what is deemed to be rather contentious, in a very frank, friendly manner. So we have built that consensus, not to just use this forum, ASEAN, as just for diplomatic and peaceful resolution, which is very critical. I think we have passed that. Even in the more contentious issue like Myanmar, we have that consensus to reach an agreement through a 5-point consensus. We are working towards it. I think Julie will probably highlight that a bit. But then for this year, the understanding or the consensus is to focus first on energy, ASEAN energy grid, alternative technology, energy that covers the whole of former Indochina, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, the Philippines. and including the undersea cable from Sarawak. So which means that sort of a more pragmatic way of resolving not only our economic demands because of the huge interest in data centers being placed, because the requirements for water and electricity is now critical. So we have to address that. At the same time, deal with climate issues, notwithstanding what others think or feel. We in ASEAN feel that this is our priority. This is something which is critical for our future. Then second is connectivity, is digital, includes AI. So the region is now focusing on this issue so that there is better understanding between these countries. But again, the fundamentals still remain economy. People say, of course, they are contending forces, competing among ourselves. Not necessarily so, because we share, and I think there's enough of interest into the region, Malaysia and the region generally being attractive. We are more concerned also about the principle of inclusivity. You have to be sustainable, but you have to be inclusive, which means we do not neglect countries. We tend to engage and formulate a policy that will benefit one another. Because if you do not cater for that, then there will not be peace and tranquility among neighbors, as you have seen in the case of Myanmar. So I think I would end at that, but just by reiterating an earlier point, which is very critical, which many people have in my meetings in Africa, Middle East, and of course Europe and America, people have underestimated that importance of building that sort of trust, of working together, of focusing on these fundamentals. As a trading country, Malaysia, as a trading region, we take that position that we should continue to engage and attract American investors, Europe in a more aggressive manner, China, which is very important as our neighbor, and continue to do so with countries, Australia, India, etc. And I think this is what we call in ASEAN centrality, that we are able to engage and navigate, of course, more precarious. The problem is not our problem, is forced upon us, and we should not be compelled to take positions against anyone. David, thank you.
Thank you so much. For those that don't speak Vietnamese, I'm sorry, I don't, so it's a real deficit. But for those that don't speak Vietnamese, take on your headset to get prepared for the Prime Minister. So we'll give a little bit of time for those that are not fluent in Vietnamese before we turn to the Prime Minister. It's like a good thing to both speak Vietnamese but also know a lot about the country, because it is, in fact, again, last year, the fastest growing of the ASEAN countries. And Prime Minister Pham Chinh has been a real advocate for also the fourth industrial revolution and for taking on a very proactive role in turning into a digital economy. We now have also a center for the fourth industrial revolution for the World Economic Forum in Ho Chi Minh. Thank you for your support there. But are there things that you have done in Vietnam that could also be applicable to strengthen the market for ASEAN, or is this not replicable?
Vâng, rất là cảm ơn ngài.
Thank you for your question. I think when we speak for the whole of ASEAN, His Excellency Anwar Ibrahim had said a lot of it. I think that ASEAN needs to have a more ambitious target and a broader vision. We call that to think deep and act big, to set a higher growth target to overcome or solve, grounded in science, technology, innovation, and digitization. If we're talking about a common solution, I think that in an intelligence age, it has to be an age without war. It has to be an age of peace. It has to be an age without conflict. Economically, it has to be an age of comprehensive, inclusive growth, as Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim just mentioned. Culturally, it has to be an era where the ASEAN identity is upheld and the identity of each country is also championed. Fourth, environmentally, we have to harness natural resources sustainably and build a clean and green environment for the long-term growth of ASEAN. Fifth, in social welfare, it is an age where we leave no one behind. Socially, it ought to be an age of social equality and progress. So this is what I think we hold in common. And I think that answers part of your question. We are focusing right now on science, technology, innovation, and digitization. Most recently, Vietnam issued a resolution to realize this goal. It is, of course, a big challenge. It is, of course, full of adversity, but we have to do it because there's no other choice. In an intelligent age, in an age of intelligence, we cannot grow at a mediocre pace. We have to, at the same time, face many different challenges, and that requires more appropriate reaction. This means through science, technology, innovation, and digitization. Currently, Vietnam is improving its institution for digitization, and we are putting a lot of active effort into this. Last year, Vietnam issued a number of laws to provide a legal framework and institutional framework for this. This also means building infrastructure for digitization, science, technology, transportation, society, healthcare, and sports at the same time. This also means developing IT infrastructure as the core of growth. Another thing we need to develop is a quality workforce focusing on emerging industries such as green and digital transformation, digitization, knowledge economy, focusing on areas where Vietnam has a strength, especially when it comes to mathematics and logical reasoning. Additionally, we cannot go without cooperation from the international community, from our friends around the world, and especially Vietnam's connection with ASEAN. It would not do to grow alone. We have to go together. And we hope that there would be digital connectivity among the countries in ASEAN. That is our ambition. And I've spoken to you, Prime Minister Ibrahim, on this before. And we have to connect not just within Vietnam, but with the region and with the broader world, to make good use of the intelligence of the world and artificial intelligence for the development of each country and each region. One thing that is indispensable is solidarity, unity in diversity, if we are to go ahead together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister. Warm applause. We have on my right-hand side, we have distinguished friends of ASEAN. So we'll now also go to the friends. And the first friend of ASEAN is Mary Janow, chair of the board of MasterCard, but also a well-known professor at Columbia that knows trade and investments really well. So, Merit, when you heard the two prime ministers speak, 700 million, they're trying to establish also a single market. Who do you think, what is the potential for ASEAN in a world where we're seeing a trade and investments being in a bit more fragile state now than it has been in the past, but these are also fast-growing economies. So over to you, Merit.
Well, thank you very much. It's a privilege to be part of this, this conversation. You know, I think of ASEAN as an area of incredible vitality, economic vitality. It's a growing area. It's tech-savvy. It's a youth area. It's extremely heterogeneous. So it's an area of incredible vitality and importance for the global economy as well as the regional economy, very important for U.S. exports. Second, it's an area that has always emphasized since the 60s, open regionalism and economic cooperation. And third, perhaps going to your point, it's an area that has been experimenting for a long time, not only in fostering further integration for markets, for trade, for investment, but also around frameworks. And, you know, in a world where, there's less interest in creating policy frameworks for integration, ASEAN is still experimenting and moving it forward, whether it's in free trade agreements or RCEP, its own regional economic partnership agreement. And I'm really quite impressed with the current negotiations within the region on a digital economic framework agreement, which, if it is concluded, and I know there are ambitious ideas, by their own estimates, will double the potential for the digital economy in the region from 1 to 2 trillion in 2030, and would be the first regional framework on the digital economy. So I think it's impressing on numerous dimensions, and it's really important for regional and global growth.
Thank you. So we're now coming to Julie Bishop. I think we all know Julie. She's a very familiar face in the region. Used to be a foreign minister for Australia, but not anymore. No, she is the special envoy for the Secretary General for Myanmar. And the Secretary General knows how to choose his people because he knows that Julie also knows how to deal with difficult tasks. So even if things look good and strong in ASEAN, there are always exceptions to the rules, and she is given the task related then to Myanmar. And there is no economic growth for the time being in Myanmar. It is a declining economy, but also even more, it also has its very deep and profound humanitarian challenges. So, what is your take on the situation in Myanmar, Julie? It is an ASEAN country, and who can and what is needed for ASEAN to be able to help and restore peace and stability, not only in Myanmar, but also then for the whole region, because Myanmar is an important part of ASEAN. It's so tricky, as I even was sticking to my script, you know.
Thank you, Børge and Excellencies. I'm very pleased that the World Economic Forum has seen fit to include references to Myanmar in its conference this year. Myanmar is a member of ASEAN. It is strategically positioned with China, India, Bangladesh, Thailand and Laos as neighbours. It is resource-rich. It has a young, educated population, but it has a very long history of internal conflict. And in 2014, for example, Myanmar hosted the ASEAN Regional Forum in Naypyidaw, and the world was very optimistic that Myanmar was transitioning from a military to a civilian government. Foreign direct investment flooded in, and we, the international community, expected it to transition into one of those superpowers of ASEAN. Others know the history well, but there was an election in 2020, Aung San Suu Kyi's party won, and in February 2021, the military took over the government. The United Nations Charter actually specifies in Chapter 8 that member states should look to regional organisations to resolve conflicts and find peaceful solutions. ASEAN did step up to the mark and held a summit and came up with, as Prime Minister Ibrahim said, a 5-point consensus plan as a way forward, because as a result of the military takeover, hostilities broke out across the country. Ethnic armed organisations became very well organised, very well armed, and the internal conflict and the subsequent humanitarian disaster has only escalated as territorial gains and losses on the battlefield dictate what's happening to the community. The important aspect of ASEAN's role here is that it remains impartial to the internal issues in Myanmar, but it will use its influence to get a better outcome for the people of Myanmar. And that's precisely why the UN is partnering with ASEAN. My mandate comes from a General Assembly resolution and a Security Council resolution 2669. And both resolutions specify that the UN Special Envoy will work with the ASEAN Special Envoy in collaboration to try and influence Myanmar to find a Myanmar-led way out of this crisis. ASEAN has also stepped up to the mark in terms of humanitarian support, and their coordination centre for humanitarian assistance, normally for disaster management, has been deployed to assist in this humanitarian crisis. It is frustrating that the 5-point consensus plan has not been implemented in a way or at a scale and a speed that we would wish. The situation in Myanmar is deteriorating, but I do see a light at the end of the tunnel with Malaysia's chairmanship of ASEAN and their new special envoy, a commitment that we will work together, and an understanding of all of the voices in Myanmar that the humanitarian situation has gone on far too long. The violence and fighting must stop. The transnational crime that's flourishing in the vacuum must be brought under control, and that only ASEAN and the United Nations and well-meaning neighbours will be able to influence that outcome. Our Secretary-General used a phrase today, Børge, when you were interviewing him, and I think I should leave it with this. Maybe we do need more robust diplomacy in terms of bringing an outcome that is in the interests of the people of Myanmar. I think together, ASEAN and the UN can be the bridge builder, can be the messengers of peace that is so sorely needed in Myanmar. And I fervently hope that it will be able to return as a fully functioning member of ASEAN, the region, and indeed the global community.
Thank you. We'll open up for possibilities to comment on that later, but I'm so pleased to have Mohammed Yunus, Professor Yunus, the one in charge in Bangladesh. I know you would have had probably a lot to say about the situation in Myanmar, Professor Yunus, and also on the Rohingyas, but that wasn't the topic for you today. We know that Bangladesh is a close friend of ASEAN. I know that you know the leaders here also very well. One of your tasks as the leader now in Bangladesh is to revive growth. There's a lot of opportunities that have to be created for the young people, its skills, its investments. And I know that you feel that deepening cooperation with ASEAN is part of your plan. I haven't seen that you're applying for ASEAN membership, but you know, ASEAN is a very inclusive organization, so they have a lot of friends for ASEAN. I even managed, when I was foreign minister in Norway, to apply for Friends of ASEAN, and we were formally adopted. Thank you, among other things, from to our friends in Vietnam that supported us very much. So, Professor Yunus, how do you see Bangladesh and ASEAN and your aspirations there?
Thank you very much. You summed up very, very well for me, the background of it. I would have hated myself sitting there and watching an ASEAN session going on here on the stage. You saved me, I'm here. So I'm very happy to be here with everybody in ASEAN. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. And we all pray for your success, Julie Bishop. It makes a lot for Bangladesh, that's the Rohingya issue. And so you have to succeed, make it happen, and we're all with you. At 171 million people in Bangladesh, wish you all the success.
Thank you.
And I will talk about whether Bangladesh should be part of ASEAN, and as I said, I will hate myself. I consider myself personally as a part of ASEAN. It goes for a long time. It's, because when I started my work, the first country that adopted our work was Malaysia. Amana Ikhtiar, Malaysia, and next to your constituency. Anwar has become a very good friend since then. We have been very close, and enthusiasm that he showed in our work, as a result, is spread. The whole idea of microcredit is spread all over Malaysia. And that was the beginning of the idea of microcredit going out of Bangladesh. That's the first country. So that brought me so close to Malaysia, and it became stronger and stronger relationship with Malaysia. We feel extremely well connected together. So I don't see why we cannot be together in ASEAN. And my friend, Prime Minister Anwar, has already assured me that somehow we will become a part of ASEAN, starting with the dialogue partner, which is available, hopefully, because emotionally we're so close to make it happen. And then came Indonesia, next to Malaysia. This is the Karya Usaha Mandiri. This is a microcredit application in Indonesia. So Indonesia became very close to us, working together, village after village, island after island. So I cannot see myself distancing from Indonesia. We're so much part of Indonesia, so personally happening. And Vietnam, almost every single women leader in Vietnam came to Bangladesh to study what we are doing and bring it to Vietnam. We did our program all over Vietnam. So personally, we're already part of ASEAN. We cannot take it away from us. We have to accommodate us into ASEAN. This is something that we have to work together. So this is what we're looking forward. I'm very honored to be here along with everybody else from ASEAN speaking today. The point I wanted to raise with ASEAN is a part of ASEAN, emotional part of ASEAN. It's a wonderful group of countries moving forward, very confident steps, future looks very bright. But the question that I've been raising in Bangladesh, and I want to share it with also ASEAN countries, what kind of future that we see for ourselves as a region, as a country? Do we follow the same footsteps that the West has done as a success and same development paradigm that we have learned? And I'm always saying, no, that's not the way we should do. We should create our own way of what we see as a development, as a future of our countries, and so on. One of the things we said, all the issues and the definitions and the concepts that we have adopted from the Western way of looking at it can be redesigned. And that's one of the things is the whole banking system, whether banking system should remain connected with the people with money. Can it be redesigned to bring it to people who don't have money, starting with that? And that's what the changes in the microcredit came as a change for that, addressing that, challenging the whole banking system. Banking system has to be redesigned. And that led to us another issue which we want to share with ASEAN. As a part of ASEAN, we will have to work together to make a different kind of society that we have right now, following the same kind of old footsteps that we do. Avoid the whole wealth concentration issue completely. right from the beginning. Because otherwise, if you follow the same step, we go back to the same thing with all the concentration of wealth. It's a globally concentration of wealth is going on, and that will be a disaster for future. So how to do it differently? That's where the banking system comes, very important. Making availability of the finance to the people, and that should be part of the whole ASEAN paradigm, that this is what we do. We ensure that no matter who a person is, either a poor person, a rich person, man or woman, as a human being, I'm entitled to it. I can change my own life. And that's what the kind of mission should be integrated into the ASEAN way of thinking. It's not the same thing, but we adopt many things, but we also add things. And that led to the issue of entrepreneurship, which we have been talking in Davos. Klaus Schwab has created, and with Hilde Schwab, the Foundation for Social Entrepreneurship. So the whole idea of social entrepreneurship comes, how to create an economy based on social entrepreneurship, rather than just follow the same path of profit maximization, growth, and so on. How much growth is important, how much sharing of wealth is important, so together. So those are the things that we have to address together in ASEAN framework to make sure we not only progress, we also progress in a different way, as becoming an example for the rest of the world. We should not be just copying things the way it happened in the past, and allowing the young people to take lead. This we have coming from Bangladesh, coming from the uprising of the young people from Bangladesh is very, very strong right now with us, to show that what the capacity of the young people, how to bring up the young people to lead the nation, lead the people with their ideas, with their concept, their technology. They are completely different kind of generation, unlike the generation that who run the country. So how to make sure we adopt them, bring them forward, so that they can bring their ideas and leadership and concepts to impact on the economy and the society as it together. So those are the issues that we want to raise it, and we'll be very happy to join ASEAN. We are waiting for it very eagerly, and we want to do a job which will be something for the world to see. It's a very different kind of region which grew with a different kind of framework. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Yunus. I would like to go back to you, Prime Minister Ibrahim. You listened to the other participants in the panel. You heard what also Julie Bishop said, and Professor Yunus on importance of breaking the impasse when it comes to Myanmar. Is there any realistic path towards getting back on track, or do we just have to be extremely patient? That's one question. The other question is also related to the single market, because there has been a lot of talk of integrating and creating a real market among the ASEAN countries. Where do you really think it stands today? How deep is it today, and how deep should it be, and how fast will it become as deep as you think it should be? And maybe the third question, ASEAN is economic success today, and the growth is much higher than the 3.3% that is the global growth that we expect this year. In Europe, we expect 1%, so that's a lot more. But how to make sure that this also continues in the future, not to get complacent? So, three easy questions for you, Prime Minister.
Thank you. I think,
and you have 3 minutes. No, I'm just kidding.
I would start with the response to my colleague, Prime Minister of Vietnam. We must have an ambitious target. It's not just going through the same process which we have been successful at in ASEAN, but I think ambitious. That's why we bring in new issues, AI, digital, and to make sure that it is inclusive. So I think that relates to the Yunus' question about how do we foresee the future, and also are we stuck to the present set of policies imposed by others? No, not necessarily. We have asked for the reform of multilateral institutions, but more so we have to set in a case, because most of our countries now look at sustainability in a different light. Of course, climate concern for the excesses in protecting our environment, but what is important, as referred to, is sustainability in a sense that we cater for issue of values. And that's, of course, totally different from what others think. Values and issue of justice, of issue of correcting the imbalance. And most countries have that sort of a mantra now, and introduce policies that would ensure that not the small coterie of oligarchs and cronies amass wealth at the expense of the vast majority. Now back to Myanmar. Myanmar, I mean, of course, thank Julie Bishop for this. We are progressing cautiously. I mean, the first positive indication in the last few months is the preparedness to engage. And I assured them through colleagues and our agencies, particularly intelligence agencies, we're not here to impose. The system governance, even within ASEAN, a bit different. Malaysia or Singapore or Vietnam, Laos, they're quite different, you see. As long as they're representative, some sort of a participatory democracy, we are not imposing. The critical point is peace must be secured. And you must not be deemed to continue these discriminatory practices or even what was deemed to be violence, to be perpetrated against minorities or any groups. So the positive side is that there has been a low-key, low-level engagement amongst the influential, intelligence authorities to set the parameters to make sure that it's also inclusive. Because delaying means sufferings for many people, including refugees in Bangladesh, and even in Malaysia, 200,000 refugees from Myanmar, Rohingyas. It is totally atrocious to continue, to allow this to continue. So the Myanmar authority understand that we have to take a strong position because the failures of governance in Myanmar are impacting our peace and security. So I am cautiously optimistic. Of course, we will coordinate with the UN on this, but ASEAN will continue to discuss this. We have agreed even to allow for countries, particularly Thailand, allow neighbors to engage at a different level, and we coordinate well. I am, again, cautiously optimistic. This has been going on for the last many decades. It's not as contentious or rancorous as in Gaza or Ukraine, but it is still problematic. It's been going on for too long. We talk about constructive engagement. I've been very cynical in the past. Some of us, my colleagues, we're talking about constructive engagement. What they did was to have construction projects, no constructive engagement. So we have to make sure that the parameters are set right. Don't impose, let them have their say, engage with them, and God willing, we say, inshallah, you'll be able to overcome.
Thank you, Prime Minister. I have a challenge now when I'm looking at that timer here. We have now 55 seconds left, it tells me. So how should I deal with that? We can either now close a very successful panel, or we could give 1 minute each to the panelists to close it. So maybe we'll do that. We'll start with Prime Minister of Vietnam. Maybe if the others do accept, we give Prime Minister a couple of minutes, and then we'll because he's also a full member of the ASEAN. So Prime Minister, then we go to Julie Bishop, and then we we go to the last panelist. So, Prime Minister.
Tôi nghĩ là chúng ta trong cái
For me, I think in this new era, this new intelligence age, we have to stand together. We have to support each other more, help each other more, give each other more mutual assistance for a common purpose, peace, cooperation and development in the region, in ASEAN and in the broader world, so that Myanmar would soon return to stability and her people would soon enjoy normalcy and enjoy a life as it is meant to be, a life of freedom and happiness. I think that goes for Myanmar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you got a lot of support for your job as the UN envoy here, Julie.
Thank you, Børge. In some ways, the situation in Myanmar is a test for the ASEAN way as to how the ASEAN member states are able to assist a member that is in such a dire situation. Just one statistic, about 20 million people, a third of the population, are currently in need of some kind of humanitarian support. But the ASEAN way is one of consensus, is one of influencing, is one of dialogue and one of diplomacy. And I'm not going to challenge that approach. What I want to do as a UN Special Envoy is build trust and confidence in the United Nations. And part of that will be working with ASEAN as they maintain trust and confidence in the region, and that together the UN and ASEAN will be a very powerful influence and voice. And that's what I'm hoping to achieve. And I agree with Prime Minister Ibrahim that the message will get through. These kind of hostilities and ethnic tensions take decades. What we're seeking to do is find reconciliation and a better outcome, an end to hostilities, peaceful negotiations, and a return to socio-economic stability. And UN can't do it alone, ASEAN can't do it alone, but with neighbouring countries, I believe that there will be a breakthrough.
Thank you, Julie. Let me then go to Mary Janow. I know that MasterCard has a lot of operations also in ASEAN, and what was also mentioned by Professor Yunus, this financial inclusion, I think, is at the forefront of your priorities too.
Yes, absolutely. Well, first, I think it's just important to underscore the economic vitality and the heterogeneity of the region. And, you know, the entrepreneurship, the innovation that is there throughout the region. It is the fastest growing internet market in the world. Wow. And so a company like MasterCard is a regional hub in Singapore. It has operations throughout the region. It's creating cybersecurity training programs, digital economy, and really aimed at digital expansion for financial inclusion, small and medium-sized enterprise, very important in the region. And so I think the opportunities are enormous. And it's also a region that is managing the complexity of the geopolitical environment in which it is operating. And I think thus far, being very hospitable to the United States investment, also to Chinese, and managing that complexity. You see great Japanese influence in the region, increasingly trusted and extensive. So the dynamism, I think, is very important for the world.
Thank you very much. And then, Professor Yunus, 1 minute for you to sum up.
Well, I feel very confident that the success of this ASEAN region group is guaranteed. It's only a question of how you design it so that you don't repeat the mistakes others have done. So there's a society which is equalitarian society, and people share the wealth and so on, continue, new concepts are followed, design things for young people to bring them to the front line so that they can create the new vision of their own countries. And as a region, they can move forward into that. So this is what I see an opportunity for them, and they're very creative as a region. This is creativity and entrepreneurship is built into the society. So we should not go away from that and follow this a job-oriented society, that we have to have a job and continue with the job. I think the whole thing will be entrepreneurship-oriented society. The young people grow up to make sure that he or she can participate in the economy on her own, on his own. And that's where the financial system has to be redesigned in a way it serves a purpose. Social business funds can be created so that the funds can be available to the young people. This educational system can be redesigned so that this is not getting a degree to get a job, kind of the conventional way of thinking. We go to the university, we go to the educational institution to prepare ourselves to become entrepreneur, become creative person, which we are. Simply, we kind of sharpen the creativity. Education gives us the knowledge and gives us the opportunity to make sure we come out as an individual creative person and contribute to the society. It's not for personal gain all the time. Personal gain is one part and the social gain. So each one growing up, not just one-dimensional person which pursue the life just for his or her own personal achievements. So it'll be something part for yourself and part for the community, society that you belong to, so that that society becomes better society after what you have done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for those wonderful words at the end. Thank you so much to this great panel. I think we know a little bit more about not only ASEAN, but also the possibilities in the years to come. It was a great panel. Give them a big applause.